The massive control room of the Galactic Council hummed with activity. Screens covered the curved walls from floor to ceiling, showing countless stars and ships moving through space. In the center, tall aliens with blue skin and silver robes gathered around a holographic display. "High Commander, we have detected an unknown fleet entering Sector 7, reported Officer Zix, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly at the readings. The main screen zoomed in to show a group of small ships moving in perfect formation. High Commander Vexthor rose from his floating chair, his long neck stretching to better view the display. "How primitive," he said with a sneer. "Look at the size of those vessels. They're barely larger than our cargo shuttles." Around the room, other council members laughed. They had seen many new species try to join the galactic community, but none with ships this tiny. The council represented the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, with massive ships that stretched for kilometers. In the corner of the room, a young diplomat named Kezarks watched quietly. Unlike the others, something about these ships made him nervous. They moved with unusual precision, and their energy readings were strange. "Our scans indicate these ships belong to a species called humans," announced Officer Zix. "They come from a planet called Earth in the spiral arm off." "Humans," interrupted Vexthor. "Never heard of them. Probably some primitive species that just discovered space travel." More laughter filled the room. Zarks stepped forward, his silver robes rustling. "Sir, perhaps we should establish contact. Our protocols state." "Young Kizarks," Vexthor said, waving 2 of his 6 arms dismissively, "when you have seen as many emerging species as I have, you learn to tell the difference between those worth our time and those who are not." He pointed at the screen. "Look at their ships. No proper weapons arrays, no massive engine structures, not even basic shield generators that we can detect. They're probably using primitive nuclear propulsion." The council members nodded in agreement, but Kizarks noticed something they missed. The small fleet was maintaining its course despite passing through a known radiation storm, something that should have disrupted basic navigation systems. "Sir," Kizarks tried again, "the way they're moving through the storm belt." "Enough." Vexthor's voice boomed through the chamber. "We will not waste diplomatic resources on such an insignificant fleet. Send them the standard warning message to leave council space, and if they don't comply." He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "We'll show them how real space-faring civilizations deal with intruders." As the council members returned to their other duties, Kezark stayed behind, studying the screens. He accessed the historical database, searching for any mention of Earth or humans. The results were surprisingly empty, as if the humans had appeared from nowhere. The young diplomat watched as the tiny fleet continued its advance, completely ignoring the warning messages being sent. Their formation never wavered, their speed never changed. It was like watching a group of dancers moving in perfect sync through space. "Computer," Kezarks whispered, "analyze the space around the human fleet." The results made his inner heart skip a beat. The surrounding space showed subtle distortions that shouldn't be possible with primitive technology. Either their sensors were malfunctioning, or these humans were hiding something. As Kezarks prepared to file a minority report about his concerns, he heard excited shouting from the other side of the control room. The human fleet had changed course slightly, now heading directly toward the Council's primary defense line. Vexthor laughed again, louder this time. Well, it seems these humans want to learn their lesson the hard way. Prepare to show them what real warships look like." But Kezarks couldn't shake the feeling that they were all making a terrible mistake. In his years of diplomatic training, he had learned one crucial lesson. Those who appear weakest often carry the greatest surprises. As he watched the tiny fleet approach, he wondered if they were about to learn this lesson all over again. The next day, tension filled the Galactic Council's control room. The human fleet had moved closer, maintaining their perfect formation. What confused the Council most was the complete silence from the ships. They sent no messages, made no demands, and ignored all warnings. Officer Zix worked at his station, pressing buttons with his three-fingered hands. "High Commander, our scans are strange. The energy readings from the human ships keep changing." High Commander Vexthor moved to the main display, his silver robes shining under the bright lights. "Changing? How?" "It's like they're pulsing, sir. One moment we detect massive energy spikes, the next moment almost nothing." Zix's four eyes blinked rapidly in confusion. "And when we try to scan their internal systems, our sensors can't get through." In the corner, Kezarks was busy studying historical records. He had found something interesting. Stories about other species who had once faced small, mysterious fleets. Those stories didn't end well for the ones who underestimated their opponents. "Sir," Kezarks called out, "I think you should see this." He projected an old report onto the main screen. 300 years ago, the Krix Empire fell to a fleet 1/10 the size of their defense force. Vexthor laughed, but the laugh seemed forced this time. "That's ancient history, young one. Our technology is far more advanced now." Suddenly, alarms started ringing throughout the control room. The human fleet had done something unexpected. They had split into smaller groups. Each group moved in different patterns, but still with that same impossible precision. "They're testing our sensor coverage," said an analyst from her station. "Every time we adjust our scan patterns, they change formation to avoid detailed scanning." Kezarks noticed something else. The space around each human ship seemed to bend slightly, like looking through curved glass. He had never seen anything like it before. "High Commander," Kezarks said, "I believe they're using some kind of stealth technology we don't understand. Look at the distortion effects." Before Vexthor could respond, Officer Zix shouted, "Sir, one of the human ships just disappeared." Everyone rushed to the main display. Where there had been 12 ships, now there were only 11. No explosion, no debris, no energy signature. One ship had simply vanished. "Impossible," Vexthor muttered. "Nothing can hide from our sensors completely." But over the next hour, 2 more ships vanished the same way. The council members watched nervously as their sensor systems failed to locate the missing vessels. Kezarks moved to a different console and started a new type of scan. Instead of looking for the ships directly, he searched for gaps in the background radiation of space, places where something might be blocking the natural energy flow. His screen lit up with dozens of signals. "Sir," he said quietly, "I think I know where the missing ships are." He sent his findings to the main display. They never disappeared. They're still there, just invisible to our normal scans. The control room fell silent. If these humans could hide their ships so completely, what else could they do? Vexthor's confidence finally started to crack. "Send a message to all Council Defense Forces. Tell them." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Tell them to prepare for possible contact with an advanced species." Kezarks watched as more ships seemed to vanish, only to show up on his special scan as dark spots in space. The human fleet was now less than a day's travel from the Council's main defense line, and no one knew what to expect. In the quiet of the control room, Kezarks remembered an old saying from his diplomatic training. The most dangerous predators are often the ones you never see coming. As he watched the human fleet's silent approach, he wondered if his people were about to learn just how true those words could be. Admiral Krell of the Council Defense Force was angry. Very angry. He had watched the reports about the tiny human fleet for 2 days, and he had enough of this nonsense. His massive warship, Star Crusher, was the pride of the Council fleet. It was time to teach these humans a lesson. "Launch attack ships," he ordered, his red scales glowing with excitement. "Let's show these primitives what real power looks like." In the Council control room, Kezarks watched with worry as 30 large Council warships moved to intercept the human fleet. "High Commander, shouldn't we try to contact them first?" Vexthor shook his head. "Admiral Krell knows what he's doing. Besides, it's just a small demonstration of force." On the main screen, the Council ships fired warning shots. bright beams of energy that lit up space. The human ships didn't react at all. They kept moving forward in their perfect formation. Final warning. Admiral Krell's voice boomed through the command channel. Leave Council space or... He never finished his sentence. The human ships suddenly moved. Everyone in the control room gasped. The small ships split apart, moving so fast they left afterimages on the screens. They twisted and turned in ways that should have been impossible. By the stars, Officer Zix whispered, "Nothing can move that fast." Admiral Krell ordered his ships to fire. Hundreds of energy beams shot through space, but none hit their targets. The human ships danced between the beams like they knew where each shot would go before it was fired. "Impossible," Krell shouted. "How are they moving like that?" Kazarks quickly analyzed the data. "Sir, I think I understand. Their ships are so small, they can change direction much faster than our large warships. They're using their size as an advantage." The demonstration wasn't over. 3 human ships suddenly spun in perfect sync and flew straight at Krell's flagship. The Council warship fired everything it had, but the human vessels didn't slow down. Impact in 3, 2, 1. Officer Zix counted down. But there was no impact. At the last possible second, the human ships split up and flew around the massive Council warship, so close they almost touched its hull. As they passed, all systems on the Star Crusher suddenly went dark. "Report," Vex Thor demanded. "Admiral Krell's ship has lost all power," Zix reported, his voice shaking. They didn't even fire a shot. They just flew past." More Council ships moved to attack. The human fleet responded by showing even more surprising abilities. Their ships could stop and change direction instantly, something that should have killed any crew inside. They moved in patterns that confused the Council's targeting systems. And most surprisingly, when hit by energy weapons, the shots seemed to simply disappear into their hulls without causing any damage. In just 15 minutes, half of Krell's fleet had lost power. The other half couldn't land a single hit on the human ships. Not one human vessel had been damaged. "Retreat," Admiral Krell finally ordered, his pride completely shattered. "All ships, retreat." As the Council ships turned to flee, the human fleet calmly returned to their original formation and continued their advance, as if nothing had happened. In the control room, nobody spoke for a long time. Finally, Kazarks broke the silence. "High Commander, I think we need to reevaluate everything we thought we knew about human technology." Vex Thor nodded slowly, his earlier arrogance completely gone. "Those ships, they're not primitive at all, are they?" "No, sir," Kazarks replied. "I think we're dealing with something far more advanced than anything we've seen before, and I have a feeling they haven't even shown us what they're really capable of yet." As if to confirm his words, new energy readings started appearing from the human fleet, readings that made even the most experienced Council scientists stare in disbelief. The real demonstration, it seemed, was just beginning. The Galactic Council's science chamber was in chaos. Hundreds of alien scientists from different species gathered around displays showing data from the human ships. After the battle with Admiral Krell's fleet, everyone wanted answers. Chief Scientist Mira, a tall being with crystalline skin, pointed at the main screen. "These readings make no sense. The energy output from each human ship is equal to vessels 5 times their size." His Ark stood nearby, watching as the greatest minds in the galaxy tried to understand human technology. He had been right about the humans hiding their true capabilities, but even he was shocked by what they were discovering. "Look at this," Mira continued, zooming in on a scan of a human ship. "They've somehow mastered perfect miniaturization. Everything in their ships is compressed to an impossible degree. The power cores, the engines, even the crew quarters. It's all there, just smaller." Vex Thor entered the chamber, looking tired. The High Commander hadn't slept since the battle. "Tell me you have something useful," he demanded. A blue-skinned scientist raised 3 of his tentacles. "Sir, we've analyzed their stealth technology. It's brilliant. They don't just hide from sensors. They bend space itself around their ships. That's why our weapons couldn't hit them." "But how?" Vex Thor asked. "How can such small ships contain this level of technology?" Kazark stepped forward with a datapad. "Sir, I think I found a clue in our historical records. Look at this." He projected an image of ancient text. 3,000 years ago, the first species wrote about the concept of efficiency over size. They believed that true advancement meant making things smaller, not bigger. Mira's crystal skin flickered with excitement. Yes, the humans must have followed the same path. While we focused on building bigger ships to show our power, they focused on making their technology smaller and more efficient. Suddenly, all the screens in the chamber lit up with new data. The human fleet was doing something new. "Energy spike," a scientist shouted. "One of their ships is opening." Everyone watched as detailed scans showed panels sliding apart on one of the human vessels. Inside, they could see technology that made even Mira gasp. "Those aren't just engines," she whispered. They're technology compressors. They can shrink matter itself." Her crystalline hands moved rapidly over the controls. "And look at their hull design. It's not just armor, it's a massive energy absorption system. That's why our weapons had no effect." Kazarks studied the new data carefully. "They're not showing us this by accident," he said. "They want us to see what they're capable of." More revelations followed. The scientists discovered that human ships could reconfigure their internal systems in seconds. Their weapons weren't just advanced. They operated on principles the Council had never even theorized. And their navigation systems could plot courses through space that Council computers said were impossible. Vex Thor sat heavily in a floating chair. "How?" he asked again. "How did we miss all this? How did they develop such technology without us knowing?" "Because we were too proud," Kazarks answered quietly. "We assumed that bigger meant better. We never considered that true advancement might mean making things smaller, more efficient." Mira suddenly called everyone's attention to a new reading. "You need to see this," she said, her voice trembling. "We just completed a deep scan of their fleet's energy signature. The power they're showing us, it's just a fraction of what their ships can actually produce." The chamber fell silent. If what they were seeing now was just a small demonstration, what were the humans truly capable of? "High Commander," Kazark said, stepping forward, "I recommend we immediately call for a full council session. We need to change our approach. These humans aren't primitive. They might be the most advanced species we've ever encountered." Vex Thor nodded slowly. "Agreed. And Kazarks, I want you to lead the diplomatic team. You were right about them from the start." As the chamber buzzed with activity, Kazarks looked at the screens showing the human fleet. He had a feeling that what they'd discovered so far was just the beginning. The real revelations were yet to come. "Bring in the Grand Fleet," High Commander Vex Thor ordered, his voice echoing through the command center. Despite the scientists' warnings, several council members still believed they could intimidate the humans with a show of force. Over 200 massive council warships moved into position, their huge forms casting shadows across space. Kazarks watched nervously from his new position as chief diplomatic advisor. "Sir, I don't think this is wise." Before he could finish, Officer Zik shouted, "The human ships are moving." Everyone watched as the small human fleet began what looked like a strange dance in space. Instead of spreading out or retreating, their ships were moving closer together. "What are they doing?" someone asked. Kazarks' eyes widened as he realized what was happening. "They're combining." The small human ships began connecting to each other, linking up in ways that seemed impossible. Pieces shifted and transformed. What had been separate vessels were becoming something new, something bigger. "By the stars," Mira whispered from her science station. "Their ships are modular. Each small ship is actually a piece of a larger vessel. Where there had been 12 small ships, now 3 larger vessels took shape. But they weren't just bigger, they were different. The combined ships had new weapons, new systems, new capabilities that hadn't been visible before. "Launch the attack," ordered Admiral Yov, who had replaced the disgraced Krell. "Show them our real power." The Council's grand fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy beams lit up space like a storm of light. But something unexpected happened. The first combined human ship absorbed the attacks, its hull glowing brightly. Then, to everyone's shock, it fired back, using the Council's own energy weapons against them. "Impossible," Yuv shouted. "They turned our weapons against us." The second human ship suddenly released hundreds of smaller drones, each one no bigger than a shuttle. The drones moved faster than anything the Council had ever seen, weaving between the larger ships and disrupting their shield systems. But it was the third combined human ship that truly showed their power. It created what looked like a small tear in space itself, a controlled gravitational distortion. 5 Council warships were caught in the effect, their massive forms crumpling like paper toys. "Stop the attack," Vex Thor commanded, finally understanding the terrible mistake they'd made. "All ships, stand down immediately." But it was too late. The human vessels had already begun their counterattack. They moved through the Council fleet like dancers through a crowd, each movement precise and devastating. They didn't destroy the Council ships. Instead, they disabled them one by one, with surgical precision. "Their technology," Mira said in awe, checking her readings. "The combined ships aren't just bigger, they're exponentially more powerful. The modular design allows them to adapt to any situation." Khazarks watched as more Council species representatives entered the command center, their faces showing fear and amazement. The Proxians, the Vega Collective, even the ancient Zortal, all of them had come to witness this display of power. Within 30 minutes, the mighty Grand Fleet was reduced to floating hulks. No ships were destroyed, no lives were lost, but every vessel was completely powerless. The humans had defeated them without taking a single life. "Send the surrender signal," Vex Thor ordered quietly, "and prepare for full diplomatic contact." As the human ships separated back into their smaller forms, returning to their original formation, Khazarks noticed something on his scanner. Energy readings from the human vessels suggested they had used less than 30% of their actual power during the entire battle. "They weren't fighting us," Khazarks realized aloud. "They were teaching us a lesson." The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans hadn't just defeated the Grand Fleet. They had revolutionized everything the Council thought they knew about space warfare and ship design. As emergency teams rushed to rescue the crews of the disabled ships, one of the Zortal elders approached Khazarks. "We were fools," the ancient alien said. "We thought size meant power. The humans have shown us that true strength lies in efficiency, adaptation, and restraint." Khazarks nodded, watching the small human fleet resume its patient waiting position. He had a feeling the real negotiations were about to begin. The Council's grand meeting chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from every member species had gathered, their eyes fixed on the massive communication screen. After demonstrating their power, the human fleet had finally announced they would deliver their message. Zark stood beside High Commander Vex Thor, his diplomatic robes feeling heavy with responsibility. The chamber fell silent as the screen lit up, showing the interior of a human ship. The human commander appeared on screen. She was smaller than most Council species, with dark skin and silver-streaked hair. What surprised everyone was her calm, almost friendly expression. "Greetings, Galactic Council," she said, her words automatically translated. "I am Fleet Commander Sarah Chen of the United Earth Federation. We apologize for the delayed communication, but we needed to assess your reactions first." Vex Thor stepped forward. "You were testing us." Commander Chen smiled. "Yes, we've been observing your civilization for some time. We heard every transmission, every mockery of our tiny fleet. We wanted to see how you would respond to something you didn't understand. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Kazarks noticed how many council members looked embarrassed. Your recent display of power, Vexthor said carefully, was most impressive. But why demonstrate it this way? Because, Chen replied, you needed to learn. Your civilization has become too focused on size and shows of force. You've forgotten that true advancement often comes in small packages. The screen changed to show detailed schematics of the human ships. Many scientists in the chamber gasped at what they saw. What you witnessed was only a fraction of our capabilities. Chen continued. We could have arrived in ships as large as yours, but that would have defeated the purpose. We wanted to show you a better way. Kazark stepped forward. A better way. Yes. Chen's image returned. Our ships aren't just weapons or transport vessels. They're a philosophy made real. We believe that efficiency, adaptability, and precision are more important than size and brute force. More schematics appeared, showing how the human ships could transform and combine in hundreds of different ways. Despite your initial hostility, Chen said, we come with an offer of peace and technological exchange. We believe the Council has great potential, but you've allowed pride to blind you to new possibilities. The chamber was silent now, every alien species representative hanging on her words. We've brought more than just ships, she continued. We have medical technology that can fit in the palm of your hand, yet cure diseases your largest hospitals can't. Energy systems smaller than a finger that can power entire cities. Communications devices that can fit in your ear but reach across galaxies. Kazarks watched as many council members leaned forward in their seats, their earlier arrogance replaced by genuine interest. But Chen's voice grew serious. These advances come with responsibility. We need to know that you're ready to learn, to change, to see beyond size and spectacle. Vexthor looked around the chamber, then spoke. Commander Chen, on behalf of the Council, I must first apologize for our behavior. We have learned our lesson, perhaps more thoroughly than we would have liked. This brought a few nervous laughs from the assembly. We would be honored to learn from humanity. Chen's smile returned. Excellent. And as a show of good faith, she pressed a button. And suddenly all the disabled council ships came back to life, their systems fully restored. You could have restored them at any time. Kazarks asked, amazed. Of course, Chen replied. We never intended to cause permanent damage. Sometimes the best way to teach is to show both power and restraint. As the meeting continued, Kazarks noticed something remarkable. The council chamber, usually filled with competition and posturing, was united in attention and respect. The humans' display hadn't just shown them new technology. It had given them a new way of thinking. The human commander's final words echoed through the chamber. The universe is full of wonders, many of them hidden in the smallest places. Are you ready to learn what you've been missing? Looking around at the changed faces of the council members, Kazarks knew the answer would be yes. 1 month after the humans' dramatic revelation, the Galactic Council looked very different. The massive, ornate warships that once filled the space around Council headquarters had been replaced by smaller, more efficient vessels. Even the Council chamber itself had been redesigned with human technology, now fitting twice as many representatives in half the space. Kazarks walked through the new Earth Embassy, marveling at how much had changed. As the first alien ambassador to Earth, he had seen firsthand how humanity had mastered the art of doing more with less. Amazing, isn't it? Said Commander Chen, who was walking beside him. Your people have adapted faster than we expected. Kazarks nodded, watching a tiny medical drone, no bigger than his palm, heal a serious injury in seconds. We were blind, he admitted. We thought bigger meant better. We never imagined. He stopped as they reached a window overlooking the space dock. Below, Council engineers worked alongside human technicians, refitting the massive Council ships with new technology. The sight of the once proud Star Crusher being rebuilt into a smaller, more advanced vessel was particularly symbolic. High Commander Vexthor's formal apology speech is starting soon, Chen reminded him. We should head to the chamber. The main council chamber was packed when they arrived. Vexthor stood at the center, his silver robes replaced by a simpler, more practical design inspired by human fashion. 1 month ago, Vexthor began, we mocked a fleet of ships because of their size. Today, we stand humbled and wiser. He gestured to the human delegation. The United Earth Federation has shown us that true advancement lies not in making things bigger, but in making them better. Screens around the chamber showed the changes already taking place. Council species that had once competed to build the largest ships were now working together, learning human efficiency principles. The Proxians had rebuilt their entire defense fleet using modular technology. The Vega Collective had replaced their massive city ships with clusters of smaller interconnected vessels. Our military experts predicted it would take years to learn human technology. Vexthor continued. But by working together, sharing knowledge openly as the humans do, we've accomplished in 1 month what once seemed impossible. Kazark smiled, remembering his first doubts about the tiny fleet. Now, as he watched various council species working together, he understood that the humans had given them something more valuable than technology. They had given them a new way of thinking. Commander Chen stepped forward to speak. When we first arrived, we saw a civilization full of potential, held back by old thinking. Now we see partners ready to explore the galaxy with us. She pressed a button on her wrist device, and the chamber's main screen lit up, which is why we're sharing this. The screen showed a star map with hundreds of new routes and discoveries that human ships had made using their advanced technology. The assembly gasped. These routes would revolutionize galactic travel and trade. This is just the beginning, Chen said. There are wonders out there that require precisely what you've learned: efficiency, adaptability, and cooperation. The age of competing through size and power is over. The age of innovation has begun. As if to demonstrate this point, the tiny fleet that had started it all performed one final display outside the council windows. The ships combined into new configurations never seen before, creating patterns of light and energy that made even the most experienced council members stare in awe. Kazark stood next to his old mentor, Vexthor, watching the display. Did you ever imagine, he asked, that being humbled could feel so much like progress? Vexthor shook his head, smiling. The humans taught us that true strength often comes in unexpected packages. And to think, we almost missed it because we couldn't see past our own pride. As the celebration continued, Kazark thought about his upcoming mission to Earth. He would be the first of many ambassadors to visit humanity's homeworld, learning their philosophy of efficiency over ego. Looking at the transformed council chamber, the new ships, and the united species working together, he knew that the day they had mocked the tiny fleet had become the day that changed everything. The humans had arrived in small ships but had brought giant ideas, and in the end, those ideas had transformed not just the council's technology, but their entire civilization.